Well, good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to the channel. Another day, another on the hoof in and around somewhere in France. Still in Brittany, and we parked up the last couple of days in a little Air to get some work done. And this is one of the things I love about the Air system over here. It's €9.50, and you actually have access to all of your standard clobber, your water, your empty and all that good stuff, but also electricity and even a toilet and a shower. €9.50 a night. And it actually, where we're camped up, it runs past the GR34. I think I spoke about this before, one of the long distance walking paths that goes around the coast. And so I just thought I'd come out this evening. I did attempt to go out yesterday evening, but the cloud cover came down and really didn't play ball. So beautiful evening now. It's about 5 o'clock. It's about 2.5 hours before sunset. So I thought I'd make my way along to the to one part of the GR34, walk a bit about that way, and then come back up this way again and head down. There's actually a fort down there that I might end up shooting as well. But as always, who knows? Let's just go for a dander, eh? Now, one of the challenges I think I'm going to be faced with is we're at a slightly lower elevation, sort of with the cliff face, and as you can see here, I'm kind of in shadow. There's obviously some nice light down on the rocks down here. Now, I ran this circuit this morning, about 6 miles or so, and maybe if I get over this, I think if I get over this kind of hump here, we might get a little bit of the light. But yeah, all of this area here is obviously deep in shadow. More of a sunrisey type environment, but now the one downside to going searching for light is like quite a lot of the coastal paths around here, it's very up and down. So I'm going to put you away, and for the second time today, get my stomp on. So I brought myself kind of up in elevation, allowing me to sort of see whether there's any light on the sort of foreground. But of course, with the sun being directly behind me, that was casting my shadow into the scene. And then if I move myself kind of around a little bit to try to exclude my shadow, we are, as I said, I think earlier, we're still quite early in the season, and so there's no honeysuckle, no thrift, obviously no heather as well, so it's just a very brown, scruffy mess. So yeah, quite challenging. However, I did then spot behind me a lovely rickety old fence. You know me and my rickety old fences. And the clouds above it, the textures above it looked stunning. But there's no way of getting up to it. And I think it's maybe someone's garden as well. So the last thing they probably want to see is me sort of, crawling up under their fence. But beautiful landscape, as you can see. And as is always the case, bit of a challenge, but that's what we like. We like a bit of a challenge, don't we? Gets the old grey matter moving. So we'll wander on and see whether we can find something. So something struck me there as I was gazing over a stunning landscape. Well, actually, two things struck me. Firstly, am I doing it a disservice by not making the image of such a beautiful landscape? Now, by the way, I don't really have an answer to any of this. So I frame up an image, and it's beautiful, it's a lovely scene and quite nice light, and it's a stunning coastline. But is it just another point the camera at, beautiful rocks such as this and make an image? And then I kind of pull myself away from that, and I start looking below my feet because I'm desperate to sort of try to find a real intimate scene and something that kind of maybe sort of categorizes the direction my photography is taking. And then I said to myself, hang on, am I trying too hard? And what ends up happening is I end up walking away from the scene, not making a single image. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm actually going to make an image off the coastline. My kind of workflow in my sort of head anyway is making images helps me to see images, if that makes sense. I know there's some folks out there who can, walk for hours, not make a single image, and then set upon a scene and fine-tune it and make a beautiful frame. But for me, it's completely the opposite. I need to be kind of continually taking images, and hopefully at some point I start to get a closer connection with the landscape. So what I'm going to do is, now that sun, there is it looks like we do have a bit of a clearing on the horizon. And of course these high altitude clouds, we know what that means potentially. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. We have lost a little bit of that light. There's a little bit of sort of high altitude cloud up there that the sun's just behind now. But I might go ahead and frame up a scene here, just to get things started, eh? That last image, it's a starter for 3 out of 10 or something. But I have now come across a little scene that I think is going to engage me a little bit more. And just this lovely collection of rocks covered in lichen. And that sun at the moment is in behind some clouds, so it's not as strong as it could be. But it looks like we are going to get some clear conditions, and it might be that I forego sort of hiking back to the fort, maybe do that another time, and actually spend a little bit more time here, because I do think that there's a potential for an image in here. Now, given the fact that I don't want too much of the sky and I want all of the attention on the rocks, probably going to be a 1x1 format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see whether I can get something set up, and then I'll get back to you. Well, as you can hopefully see now on my face, the light is beautiful. So I've kind of settled on a little square crop. Now, given the minimum focusing distance here, or the focusing distance, I'm actually having to focus stack 4 images right the way through. Got it on manual exposure as well, just so light looks quite even, but just making sure that we don't get any sort of change in lighting conditions, so it gives me the best chance to piece those together back in post. I'm definitely not going to make my way all the way back to the fort, not least Nicola's just texted me and she's had a big job come in, so it looks like we're going to be staying in this area for the next couple of days, and it does look like we are going to get some nice conditions. So that actually allows me to just take a big deep breath and just focus here, just stay around here. Now, the one thing that might change my mind to go a little bit wider is if those clouds start to catch. Now, right now the sun is a little bit too harsh for me to see under the horizon whether there's a bank of haze or anything, but it looks like we're going to get sort of some nice light for the next sort of half an hour or so. So I'm going to kind of have a little bit of fun here on these rocks. The main kind of thing that I was trying to achieve, as he tries to whack it back on again, is a little bit of a sort of pathway through the actual rocks themselves, and obviously hopefully using the light on the yellow bits of lichen to sort of guide the eye through. Now obviously in post I'll be able to kind of enhance that by doing a bit of dodging and burning perhaps. And then obviously we have a lovely sort of split of rock on the right hand side of the frame, and then right the way out on the far side of the frame there looks to be a lot of sort of battery towers, old disused gunner towers here, and that's probably something here. Might even be an old disused sort of lighthouse where they used to sort of burn to sort of take the job of a lighthouse. But yeah, rather nice indeed. So I'll go ahead and throw this particular image up, and I warn you now that the next few images that we're probably going to have here, if we can come across another few, are probably not going to be too dissimilar to this. But right, throw this up and we won't wander on. We'll stand right here and see whether we can come up with something else. So I've now changed tack a little bit, and I'm back in a 4:3 aspect ratio, and now I'm starting to take in a little bit of the wider scene. There's some lovely, still far too harsh to be shooting directly into the sun, but I was just caught, as quite often is the case, just in the top right hand side of this frame with the sea spray coming in and the light sort of shining through it. I thought that was a lovely little nod. And of course still this lovely side light that's on these rocks, and there's just all sort of higgledy-piggledy all over. So again, focus stacking, just because I've got such a short distance for that minimal focusing distance. And as I'm sure you know, putting my hand in between each sort of finish of frames, just so I know which ones to focus stack, which ones go together. Now I can sense that light is just starting to fade just a little bit. There must be some clouds on the, now not on the horizon. We're still, what are we? 40 minutes away from sunset. But the light on these rocks is just beautiful. I just really hope I'm doing it justice. So this is a slightly wider scene, almost right out at 32mm. And again, just trying to sort of build a little bit of a path with both the textures in the rocks and also the yellow coloured lichen. And then maybe a little nod on the right hand side of the frame, just to that lovely side light. But what I might start doing is I might start walking just a little bit more into the frame and see whether we can come up with another image. What a beautiful evening. So I get the feeling that we have maybe one more shot before we start to lose the light. It's about 15 minutes or so before sunset. And so now we still have some lovely high altitude clouds. I'm kind of hoping that they will allow me to take one final image of a wider scene. But I think while we still have some light on these rocks, I think it's time to maybe look to get one more little intimate scene maybe set up, or one more not the wider view. But this has been beautiful. The light is stunning. The light is absolutely gorgeous. Just a very happy photographer. Right, let's see whether we can get a penultimate shot set up, making use of that light, and then we'll maybe hope to see whether we get some colour in those high altitude clouds, eh? Oh, the light is absolutely gorgeous. You've heard me say that before. I even came across a little potential intimate scene. Now, I'm going to leave it for tonight. I just took a couple of little sketchy shots with the iPhone. And given the fact that we're going to be here for the next couple of days, that's potentially one to come back to. So onto the potentially onto the last but one image potentially, and that's just, again, now that light is starting to fade. There must be a little bit of a band. We're probably about 10 minutes away from sunset, but now our attention after this image turns to those clouds. So just a regular shot, 4:3, right out at 32mm, and sort of taking in the bowl feature of this sort of landscape in front of me. Again, just with that little kind of whatever it is up there, that little sort of mini lighthouse, and what looks to be some kind of naval ship going past. Yeah, so the sun is definitely starting to subdue a little bit. Will those clouds catch? That's the big question. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and fire this shot up, and maybe we'll be back for one more image. Maybe. Well, that, as they say, is a wrap. Subtle. That's how the clouds ended up. Just a lovely kind of subtly sort of pinkish purplish tone. And so I ended up just focus again on that little sort of stack of rocks and mostly taking in a lot of that sort of colour in the sky. But that has been beautiful. It started out kind of getting a bit frustrated that we weren't going to find an image, and has ended up maybe still not having an image that we'll kind of hold on to, but a very, very enjoyable evening. And for me, that's what it's all about. Right, well, I'm going to now make it's about a 20-minute dander back to the van. Beautiful. Right, guys, well, once again, thanks a lot for following along, and until next time, au revoir. It's not getting any better. See you later, guys.